Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Hugo Byrne. I'm a senior partner at Action Coach Halton. And today I'm here with Ahmed and Mohammad, the co-founders, two of the co-founders of Hexonine Games. Uh, so Ahmed, Mohammed, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
We're very happy to be here. Like you said, my name is Ahmed. I'm the VP and co-founder of Hexonine Games. Mohammed, you want to say hi?
Hi guys, this is Mohammed Muawiya. I'm the president and the senior game designer at Hexonine Games.
Okay.
Excellent. So, as usual for this series, we'll talk about your business and your journey. I'm very excited today because we get to talk about starting a video games studio, which coming from that industry, I'm really excited about this conversation. Now,
Likewise.
for the audience, if this is your first time on the channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notifications when we drop new conversations just like this one. So, guys, welcome again, and
Thank you.
I would like to start with a little bit of an overview of Hexonine Games, and what's the studio like? What are you working on?
Awesome. So I'll take this question, Mohammed. So as the current VP of the team, I am responsible for being the liaison and connecting with the audience, the marketing. So we're excited to announce that we're currently working on three projects simultaneously. We have published one game so far. As a team, we're comprised of only three brothers. And we've been incorporated since November 23, but we've been talking about this studio for a long time. And Mohammed has been working with our design tool for longer, about, I would say, 2 or 3 years. But officially, we started this team because we felt that we have very complementary skills. I'm handling all the project management aspect. Mohammed is dealing with the video game design aspect, and our youngest brother is dealing with all the artistic creativity of each project. And I try to kind of coordinate the quality deliverables of the team so that we can execute on a higher level. So far, we haven't expanded outside of the team. We just work with individuals on kind of a volunteer internship basis, but the team is comprised of all the three of us.
Okay, okay. And um, you mentioned three games at the same time. One of them is published. Now I know that a big challenge sometimes for studios is going a long time without releasing a
Yes,
product. Um,
yes.
so what's your thinking in terms of those three games? Like how did you put together the portfolio? And for the one that's been released, like how are you tracking it and seeing
Okay, the
how
progress.
successful it is?
Okay, so first we've wanted to establish a smaller scope. So we wanted to tackle the first series being episodic. So the episode one, our first game is called Soulscape, Shadows of the Past, and it's in the past. Episode one, the protagonist is going to have a couple of things happening in the past that we've released on Steam. We're currently working with PlayStation to kind of establish our process to publish with Sony. So right now we want to put the basic foundational blocks of us publishing these products on each of these platforms. So our plan is to expand to Nintendo after iPhone and Android, Xbox, but the first target was Windows and PlayStation because we're avid video gamers as well. So we figured we'd tackle the stuff that we're good at first, and then we're going to branch out to Xbox. And the second question you said was how do we kind of track the projects, but kind of being long term. And so that's why currently Mohammed is working full time on the game development while we're investing from personal savings into the team to kind of push it forward. Well, we have discussions with investors and publishers who are kind of looking into our portfolio and seeing how they can collaborate with us on future projects or existing projects that we currently have. And this is based on conferences and external coordination, social media, you name it. I'm sure everyone knows a lot of ways where they can connect and network with professionals on that venue.
Mm. Okay, okay.
Mhm.
Now, how is the first game going? Like, is it um when was it released, and is it meeting
Oh
your
yeah. So we've
expectations?
sold so we've released not long ago, I think in April. We've sold under, I would say, 5,000 copies. So not we did achieve our targets. We were going for 10,000. So we've only sold under 5,000 copies, which is kind of a moderate success, I would say.
Hmm.
But we kind of were targeting 10,000 if I'm quite honest, because we were very ambitious. So at the same time, we kind of pushed the first one with the intention that we would establish the process. So our metrics for success where to kind of know where A to Z is, because as you know, this is our first game that is published solely by us. So it's not the easiest to set up the basics for it. So the idea is that game number two, which is the second one, Soulscape episode two, Fragments of the Present, that one was going to have to, a better wide receive. The demo is going to come out in August. We are establishing a bigger scope with that. That's the main goal. Similarly, with the first game, it's kind of like a concept of a trial. So we're going to publish that onto different systems. That way, we can facilitate the release of the stronger games that we're planning for the future.
Hmm. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I like the approach, and I love the idea of doing the first one to kind of establishing the process and going from
Yes.
beginning to end. That sounds
Absolutely. Yeah.
really interesting. Um, Mohammed, I think one which may kind of slip into a little bit of technical, but we don't need to get very technical. But one question sometimes is kind of platforms and should it be released for several platforms, right? Um, like how much does that decision kind of complicate the development process?
Oh, it does complicate it a lot. For example, importing on the PS5, it was a pain, especially with the point and click, because I would imagine if the game was like a third person kind of game, maybe like a 2D like side scroller, that would make my life much easier. Because importing with the point and click, because you realize the PS5 doesn't have a mouse, right? It doesn't implement the usage of a mouse and the keyboard. The PlayStation controller has like a touchpad, so we have to like let's say imitate some kind of functionality in the Unreal Engine and tell it like there is actually a mouse slash touchpad, on the controller. So it wasn't that easy. But fortunately, I've tackled that issue and solved it now with the game, the Soulscape. You can control it with the analogs, the controller PS5 analog. The testing is going well so far. The release, there's like some problems with the, not problems with the routine, the, let's say, on the website, the page itself, some smaller, issues to fix, and then the game will be released on the PS5, hopefully.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Mhm. Now, when and this may be more of an open question because um games may be built for a certain audience, right? You may find a target market and say, hey, they're craving for these type of games. Let's build for them. But you also need to kind of take into account what are the capabilities and interests of the development team, as well as, whether the studio is going for a certain type of games, right? Or a certain vibe. So how was now that I understand that the games are kind of episodic and they're under the same um family, so to speak.
Style.
Um,
Style.
Yes.
Yeah.
right. So that makes sense that you're not defining like designing completely different games. But how was that balance of saying, hey, this is what as a studio we want to do, but let's figure out who are the players we're looking for, and then how do we get to them? So tell me a little bit about that process.
Do you want to take this one, or do you want me to deal with this one?
No, I can take it.
Okay.
So, like Ahmed said earlier, like the first game, the episode one, since I was like I've been introduced, like I have a background in software development, but not Unreal Engine, But Unreal Engine makes it so easier for developers, especially if let's say you don't have like years and upon years, of experience with the coding or like the C++ language. But Unreal Engine basically it uses C++ and it's transformed into the usage of blueprints. So if you have like the know-how, the knowledge of how to use the logic behind the blueprints, it makes your life easier. So I'm used that opportunity to learn a lot about, let's say, Unreal Engine 5 while developing Soulscape Episode 1, Shadows of the Past. And that actually helped me gain a lot of knowledge base. Let's say build a lot of let's say knowledge base about how to use Unreal Engine 5. I'm going to implement that a lot more, make the game much more better in episode 2. So hopefully episode 2, when it's launched next, let's say in August, hopefully you're going to find out that's much more different than one. Let's say technicality wise, there's a lot of features. So many features have been added. The gameplay is the game is longer. You're gonna see, you're gonna have much fun with it. Episode 1, if you look at it, the game is basically point and click, and there is no combat system. Let's say there is like I said, I'm gonna build that on episode 2. I'm gonna add the combat system, a turn-based. It's heavily inspired by JRPG classic, retro games, from the 90s. People love like Final Fantasy and such. Shadow Hearts, Covenant, in 2005. Games like those. So that's a huge addition to me. Like I'm building the combat system from scratch, and
That's your inspiration.
I'm having a blast. Because I'm doing something I love. I mean, you all love to play tactical / turn-based games. From the 90s and such. So yeah, like I said, like I've used the first game to learn while building the game itself, and it helped me a lot.
And to add to Mohammed's point, in terms of deciding on a scope, right? Because I feel like that was kind of your question: is how do we decide the audience and the scope while maintaining the creative integrity of us enjoying the game, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And for us, it has to be a balance between something that we enjoy. Because, so for example, we were playing Baldur's Gate 3 recently, and we loved it. It's a turn-based game, point and click, so we loved it. So we wanted to do something like that, open world, but at the same time, if Mohammed gets excited and he wants to add a lot of scope, I have to kind of push back on that. As a team, we have to pay the scope because we have a small team, so we can't go crazy with imagining all kinds of stuff and we can't execute. So we have to keep it reasonable, but also something that we can play, and an audience in the range of 15 plus to kind of, I would say, 65. I don't know. My dad plays games still, and he's 65, so right. But he plays different stuff like tactical war-based games. But it's a different genre. But that's how how we play it. We want to include story-based elements with some graphics and a little bit of chess elements to keep you engaged, right? Because I'm sure everybody is busy and they would like something to check out. So if something we can play, maybe the audience will enjoy. Exactly. Yeah, because we're avid gamers ourselves.
Mm. Okay. Now you decided to self-publish episode 1, but you mentioned you're in conversations for future games.
Yes. We've pitched our game to a couple of people, a couple of smaller investors, but we are kind of hoping to kind of expand our outreach and go after the big players. So we are intending on pitching it to PlayStation Studios, to Ubisoft. So we're going to try to reach for the bigger market. But for now, we have discussions with smaller investors. But I'm sure NDAs, we can't announce much. But so far this is the direction we're going with. But since me and Mohammed are kind of collaborating and we're putting our investments into it, we're kind of self-funded so far.
Okay. And you mentioned moderate success, but it's fantastic that you've had those 5,000 sales. I wanted to ask, like, when you did the publishing and you were thinking about that target audience and the players you wanted to reach, how did you structure the marketing? How did you start getting the word out there on the game?
Okay, that's a good point. So I was responsible for the marketing campaign, tackling social media first. I'm responsible for all the social media outreach, and I collaborate with a couple of friends and family members who have strong social media presence, colleagues in the industry, and a strong network. So in general, you need to build a strong network for yourself, even if you're not in your own business. It's a must. And based on that stronger network, you can outreach for publishers, people invested, people interested in this. So that's the kind of direction. So I started the channels, all the social media channels. I started collaborating with conferencing teams. So we attended Collision Conference recently just to get some feedback from the public. And honestly, those are the biggest things that we found of value, because it connects you with not only investment teams, but it connects you with fellow developers in the industry that can share valuable insights. For at least from a technical perspective, not just from an operational perspective.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the network was your number one marketing strategy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So
what would be
that's the
number
biggest
100? Like, what's something that you tried for the marketing and you're like, oh, that didn't work?
I would say paid campaigns on social media. Some of them were not so successful that I wasn't So like I felt like organic outreach to through networking was more successful than just paying off automated media campaigns that kind of wasn't as successful as I wanted. So it didn't feel like it's more value, if that makes sense. So it felt like, just from my experience, I feel like organic outreach to the clients and the fellow team members and colleagues would be more productive and useful to the team.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
interesting, right? Because
yeah,
I think that instinctively one would think, oh, but the campaigns are going to thousands of people, right?
exactly. I thought that too. Yeah,
But
I
as
thought
you
that
said,
too.
probably that kind of more human to human connection
Yes,
worked out
exactly. It's
much
way more
better.
useful. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Um, Now, uh, so the episodes are so episode 2 is coming soon with a demo.
In the work.
Um, and oh, before we get to this question, actually, um, like one thing that sometimes I've heard as a challenge is working with friends, working with family members, and the three of you are siblings and you're making it work. So what have been some of the challenges and how you've sorted out to keep that both personal relationship as well as the business relationship going?
Okay, do you want to take this one or do you want me to take this one?
I have a pitch on this one. I can say something.
Okay, go on. You go first.
Definitely.
Okay.
Like I would say it has a pros and cons, like it's good and bad at the same time. So we're going to be brothers, slash friends, of course, lifelong friends. So you have to let's say when you give them a task, like they have tasks, right? They have to do their part. So they give you a deliverable, and sometimes you don't like it, like just like so many let's say developers out there, like senior developers, when they're working with people, they give them tasks. These guys don't deliver the task, or the task is not up to the quality of it expected. So there's been some fights. Let's just say that, like a lot of fights. But since we're brothers, like we reach like a solution, and then we work it out eventually. Yeah, yeah. So that's like a pros and cons. Like it's good because you can tell them, like a piece of your mind. Let's say like I don't like this, even the way you say it. Like if you don't know someone, you have to like be very like political about it. Like be very PC. With your brother, you just go crazy with them sometimes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's like the
But
cons and
I
pros.
will say that I didn't
Yeah,
face this much issue because Mohammed is working
yeah,
with Abdullah, for example, our youngest sibling,
yeah.
directly in terms of the technicalities. So they are very closely working together. For example, he's like me and him were he's very gentle with me, for example, because I deal with the other side of things. So he's engrossed in technicalities. He doesn't worry about the
Yes.
marketing. He leaves it for me. But for example, sometimes when we talk to each other as business associates, you have to separate the line when you are family, right?
Exactly.
Like you
Yes.
have to work together. I mean, being family definitely is good. I think it's a positive. But at the same time, there has to be a specific line you draw in the sand to help each other succeed or win the ball game, if
That's
that
true.
makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
I hope that makes sense.
yeah, and I think another element you mentioned is and I know Ahmed that you still have a full-time job, right? And you're all
Yes,
bootstrapping Hexonine together.
yes.
Um, so what has that, because that's another area of concern for many studios, right? Thinking, oh, my first product is going to take a year, a couple of years, right? So how am I
Yes,
going to fund that so that we can keep
yes.
going? Um, so how was that process for you, and what do you see as next steps? Like, for example, what's the point where you say, okay, now is when I can jump full time?
Okay, that's a very good question. So let's start off with the fact that I would prefer my preference would be to work on Hexonite full time. I work part time with this. I feel like the engineering projects are challenging, but I have a lot of passion towards video games, so I am more excited to manage video gaming projects. And I would say for other people listening as well, if you are able to sustain the expenses, because there's tiny expenses that come with the team, right? And right now, like you said, me and Abdullah are full time working on the side to fund the team, and Mohammed is working full time to kind of push the project forward. So I think for everyone listening, the best way to know when you're ready to jump forward is to at least have the funding for one full project. Right? If you have at least a funding for one full project and you're collaborating with an investor or a publisher on that, and you're confident that funding will land, then I think it might be okay to kind of switch forward and transition full time into that design. And my future plans is kind of when I see that Mohammed is working with an established team in terms of publishers and revenue is steady, then that way I can transition fully and kind of benefit the team full time from my expertise. But like I said, most video game design firms are self-funded, right? And that transition is one of the most challenging things right now for most indie studios.
Yeah.
And for me, I think the whole point of starting Hexonine Games is for us to have creative control over our projects. We want to control where the project is going and how it's going to be executed. And I feel like once you work with publishers, that will be limited a little bit. They will have input into how you conduct your project, how you manage it, the creative direction. So there is ups and downs to that. Or you can have a very successful launch of a game and then your revenue is so steady that it sustains you full time for the next one. But there's also three of us, and most teams I've noticed there's like sizing of 1 to 10. Most of the studios that I've seen that are kind of working in these studios, I've seen 1 to 10, and some of them like they get the revenue, some of them don't. So it really depends on your launch. It depends on the product right now.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that's
Yeah,
pretty practical, right? To say, okay, funding for
yeah,
one full project and having that support.
yeah.
Yeah, and I hope that soon so that you can go full
Thank you.
into your passion.
That's the plan.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So let's fast forward. Um, what's your vision of where Hexonine would be, let's say 3 to 5 years from now?
Oh, I have a lot of things to say on that. Okay, I'll be brief. So I'm my biggest plan right now is to get Mohammed a team of artists and fellow designers to support him. He's an excellent senior game designer. He can lead a team with ease, but right now he's doing 10 jobs at once. So right now my biggest priority is to kind of get a bigger team for him to be able to execute the bigger scopes because I try to keep his ambitious tendencies limited to smaller scopes. But once we build a bigger team, and as you know, building the team comes from kind of getting the investments and the revenue. So that's the biggest plan for us in the next 3 to 5 years to grow the team into 10 people, 10 to 20 people. That's kind of what I'm going for so that Mohammed can have a larger size scope. We can get the market with a bigger project. That's kind of the long-term goal for now.
Okay, I love that,
Yeah.
and I love the idea of having um, a small studio of that size, like working here in Halton. So
Thank you.
that's
Thank
exciting.
you. Appreciate that. Wish us luck.
Yeah, yeah. So, as we start wrapping up, I wanted to ask like a few quick questions, like a few words on each, and maybe I'll get
Okay.
both of you.
Okay.
Um, so what would you say is the key to success?
Having a reliable team. What about you? Few
I
words.
would
Oh,
say learn from others. I would look at, let's say, maybe people like similar to our like situation or like your situation. Let's say you are an indie development company you're just starting. So let's say learn from others and their story of success, and then look at the let's say the big fish, like the big players. Maybe they like aim high. Look at these companies, but maybe that's like in the future. For now, let's say learn from people who like similar to your situation, who made it. Who like successful. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So basically, learn from others. Yeah.
Okay.
thanks. Yeah.
Now we've covered a lot of different topics, but what's one piece of advice you would have for other or business owners or studios that we haven't
Uh,
covered so far?
okay, I would say don't get discouraged if you don't achieve your targets early on because this is a marathon, not a race.
Hmm. Okay, I like that
Very,
one.
very to the point, but that's how I felt. Yeah.
Okay, Mohammed, what
Yeah,
about you?
my suggestion is similar to Ahmed. My advice is like don't give up. There are a lot of so many challenges you're gonna like face. Just don't give up. You'll make it eventually. You'll make it, but just don't give up. If you're passionate about this and try to have fun because it is fun. Like developing, you have like we said earlier, like you can be creative because you're the let's say the master of your ideas. You can come up with your own ideas. So you have freedom. With creativity, you can have fun with this. Try to and don't give up. Yes. There are so many challenges. Yeah,
Okay.
there are. Uh,
What is one book or piece of learning that you've recently read or learned around business that you would want to share with the audience?
You probably had to have a technical piece of
Well,
reading.
well, I wouldn't say like a book, maybe more reading, like on social media, like maybe searching about other successful, businesses. So, like I said, you can learn from others. Look out, like I'm very interested. Let's say, for example, the CEO of Nintendo, like the former CEO of like people who created their companies, who developed the Guild Wars 2, the online game, the MRPGs, or let's say the Final Fantasy 14 crew and their like stories. I have to know a lot about them. Like even sometimes their past life, where they have graduated, since when they started development or like into the business. Let's say Hideo Kojima, the director and producer of Metal Gear Solid, the game. I'm very interested in his life and his like career, how he started and stuff like that. Even like Bethesda, let's say Bethesda, their marketing schemes and stuff, like how they promote their products, how when they started, and how many let's say their products, like Fallout 3 and 4, they released them in 2005, 6, or even Oblivion. So the game actually started in 1996 by another company, which is like I think Interplay, and then Bethesda bought they purchased the rights to publish the game.
They
So I'm
acquired them.
interested in those kind of stuff. Like I'm very interested in them, like in their lives and their careers.
And
How
for
they
and for me,
made it.
project management book 7, because I'm trying to get further into project management and learn more about managing games. So
Okay.
nothing too out of the ordinary for
Yeah.
me.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
I think these two answers are very unique to the other. So, but
Okay.
I love the idea of finding those successful cases, right, within your
Yes.
industry, right?
Yes. That's our
Um,
recipe.
so if there was one, I'm guessing what the answer could be, but if there was just one area of the studio that you would immediately improve tomorrow, like what would it be?
I would say marketing. I sometimes don't have as much time to be a successful marketing manager because sometimes I have to do outreach and coordination. So managing the social media is tiring. So I would say marketing can
Right.
be a challenge, and that's
Right.
something that we can improve on.
Right. Right. Cool.
Yeah.
Um, so, when we share this, we'll share with the contact information and maybe I'll grab from you where to get episode one. Um,
Yes.
is there anything else that you would like the audience to know before we wrap up?
Yes, very quickly. We are working on 2 more games other than Soulscape series simultaneously. They are in this conceptualization phase. So one of them is called the Omega. Please give us a 20 seconds intro on it, Mohammed.
The Omega takes place in the time of the Crusades, and the protagonist, he's a crusader. He one of the I haven't decided which crusade. Like I think there's 4 of them. I have to do some more searches. But basically, the guy goes to the Middle East during the wars, and he changes and then becomes different. Let's say a good person, and then he lives there. Marries an Arab girl, like they're Palestinian. He lives there definitely and leave the Crusades. Basically, it's heavily inspired by Assassin's Creed series also.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. And also to stay um, um, expecting the demo for episode 2, right, in August.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
We can have videos for yourself, but I don't think Mohammed is ready to share the full demo. I was going to send a couple of videos for yourself just so we could include it as a package. So that's something that we're
Of
willing,
course.
We'll make
if you're
sure
okay
that
with that.
your social media is there so we can all follow, and
Yes.
whenever
Thank
it's
you.
released, we'll be there.
Likewise.
Right?
Likewise. And yeah, and we're going to connect obviously and discuss further, of course. Absolutely.
Uh, Ahmed, Mohammed, I really enjoyed this conversation and learning more about the studio and really excited about the next steps. So thank you so much for sharing and for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for having
And
us.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Hugo. Appreciate you having us. It's a great opportunity. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
having
sir.
us.
Thank you.
This was
it
really
was
fun.
great. And thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers.